Hello, everybody. It is Friday in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name is Adam Bittner, assistant sports editor for multimedia at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joined by Jason Mackey for his weekly appearance in the guest spot on the North Shore Drive podcast, our Post-Gazette sports columnist. We're going to be talking about DK Metcalf. Has he kind of gone under the radar in terms of his importance to this team, or have we just talked about other people because, I guess specifically Aaron Rodgers, because it's the quarterback position, it's the sexy thing to talk about. We want to focus a little bit on DK Metcalf. Before we get to that, we want to thank our sponsor for this episode of this podcast. It's Edgar Snyder and Associates. When you've been hurt on the job, who decides when you're better? Who decides when your treatment is over? Who decides when your benefits are over? The answer might surprise you. It's insurance company doctors. How does that make you feel? If the answer is not great, call Edgar Snyder and Associates today at 1-800-94-EDGAR. They'll fight for the work comp rights you deserve. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. Okay, Jason, DK Metcalf is the highest paid player on this offense. He probably represents the steepest fall off from him as the number one to the guys who are behind him on this depth chart. Sure, Aaron Rodgers is the name everybody knows. He's been the focal point of this offseason, but if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, you're going from him to Mason Rudolph. It does not feel the same as going from DK Metcalf to Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson. Is he quietly the most important player on this offense where things could go most off the rails most quickly if he's hurt or if he doesn't play well?
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about him enough, Adam. I'll say it that way. Most important, maybe. I think we've thrown that label around a lot, but I mean, DK is kind of a quiet guy, doesn't talk to the media a ton. He's certainly, I don't mean that in a malicious way, but we've just been focused on other things, I think, because of Aaron Rodgers. And I look at his contract and I look at, the very first move of this offseason and what the Steelers said about themselves. And yeah, you bring up a very good point about the drop off at wide receiver versus other positions. Man, I need a big year out of DK Metcalf is what I'm saying. I need chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. I need that bona fide number one. You're going to pay a wide receiver $30 million. It's completely fair to expect return on investment. I want, 1,400 yards, 10 plus touchdowns, maybe more than that. I want him to be a threat. I want him to command double teams and coverage and open things up for everybody else. So I don't know if we've talked about all that enough. We've talked about not having a wide receiver. We've talked about having 72 tight ends. We've talked about a 41-year-old quarterback. Just really haven't talked about DK that much.
You mentioned his stats, Jason. I think it's interesting because we brought it up after the signing, but it has fallen under the radar during this preseason training camp portion of the program. He has not gotten close to the numbers you just mentioned, 1,400 yards. He had 1,303 in 2020. Everything else was in the 1,100 or lower range. Last year, he was tied for 25th in receiving yards. Does he still have those difference maker numbers in him, A? And B, what is the threshold of this was a success versus he just kind of seems like the same guy that George Pickens has been the last couple of years?
He can't. I mean, that's not success to me, Adam. I mean, I don't want to put a numeric threshold on it. I mean, I feel like we'll know it when we see it. And with George Pickens the past couple of years, I know it when I see it. I'm not calling that a success. I mean, it was visually appealing at times, but he was by and large a nuisance, and they went out and got DK Metcalf for a reason. I mean, I guess I'm looking at it, he's compensated what? Fifth most among wide receivers, something like that. I mean, I want fifth most production. I'm not crazy. I'm not asking for 37,000 yards. I want you to produce like how you're being paid. I have no problem with them paying a wide receiver that amount of money. In today's NFL, that makes sense. You want an advantage. I've loved watching DK Metcalf practice. You haven't seen him in a preseason game. I understand why they've done that. But I mean, I'm expecting top of the line premium production from this guy because that's how the Steelers are paying him.
Steelers 2.5-point favorites in their week one game against the Jets this week, according to our friends at FanDuel. Make sure you check out that if you're looking to put a couple of bucks on the game. Jason, what difference does a consummate professional make in this role? Because that seems to be the thing that's most stood out to people is that there's no drama here, that this is a a guy who's going to go to work, do the job. I think it's we don't know where he's going to go statistically, but in terms of the locker room and in terms of making this offense work, and in terms of, I think, especially doing those things that you mentioned of making the guys around him a little bit better, knowing the mission even when he's not getting the ball, how big of a difference can he make? And is this a guy they maybe haven't had in that role since like Hines Ward?
Yeah, boy, that's a good one with the Hines Ward. I didn't think about the comp. I've spent a lot of time thinking about his attitude and how it relates to other players. And I think there's something to be said for being a no maintenance personality, or maybe, you're lifting up Roman Wilson or providing an example or anything like that. But yeah, man, they really haven't had a receiver who handles himself like Hines, or, like Metcalf has since Hines. The importance, though, Adam, is to me, a lot of guys reducing the amount of drama and stupid stuff that we've seen out of this team over the years. And I think Aaron Rodgers has brought a certain level of maturity that the Steelers have lacked. I think the offensive line has grown up in a way that's important. I think DK Metcalf has contributed toward that. I mean, they've got guys who are like, talented skill players, but they also have guys that are, I don't want to say no maintenance personalities. They have a little bit of an edge to them, but it's much healthier around there. It's much healthier to be, even on the defensive side of the ball. I like what they've done, and DK Metcalf is a part of it.
Yeah, I think that you're right. There's definitely some big personalities here, but pros
in a good way. In a good way. It's not the Pickens was a personality, but it's not something you wanted.
Yeah, but I look at a guy like Jaylen Ramsey who talks a lot of trash, but the guy's a pro. He knows how this works, and I think that's what I see with DK Metcalf is knowing how this business works and where you fit into it. Something George Pickens, I don't think, ever quite figured out, and he is not the only one that they've had, particularly at the receiver position, that never figured that part out, to the point that we were always talking about, Juju Smith-Schuster on some level early in his career. I think he's become something of a consummate professional since leaving Pittsburgh. And I think that's a little frustrating if you're a Steelers fan, seeing that he's, even though physically he's declined, he has been that guy that knows his role and knows how to play. That's why he's been playing on good teams, even though he's been very diminished from where he was those first couple of years. So it'll be interesting to monitor all of that. Jason, we're going to go back to the Aaron Rodgers conversation on the other side of this break. Talk about our expectations for him and whether he's changed any minds with how he's conducted himself this offseason, preseason, I guess is the better word. What success and failure look like for him? And we're going to get into the Cam Heyward holdout conversation a little bit as the world turns there. And, of course, we're going to get Jason's predictions. So make sure you stay tuned. We will see you on the other side. Second segment here on the North Shore Drive podcast. I'm Adam Bittner. He's Jason Mackey. We're going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers and our feelings about him going into the season after a busy preseason of comments and work from him. Get into some predictions for the season. Before we do, we want to thank a couple of sponsors here. Are you having trouble finding the right people to hire? Tired of sorting through endless resumes? Well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because of ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features that help speed up finding the right people for your roles, so you save valuable time. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. With ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. See a candidate you're really interested in? You can unlock their contact info instantly. Use ZipRecruiter and save time hiring. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ZipRecruiter.com/audio right now, you can try it for free. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. We also want to thank Savinas, Kane, and Gallucci, Pittsburgh's mesothelioma and asbestos lawyers with over 85 years of experience. Call them now for a consultation or visit sdklaw.com. Jason, I know you wrote a column about Aaron Rodgers this week. Has he changed your mind, either regarding his circus reputation that he came in with that a lot of people, did not care for, or what he has left in the tank after seeing the last couple of years in New York, even that last season in Green Bay, and how he's meshed with this locker room. I will say that I think I've learned that there is a difference between the Aaron Rodgers that you see in public, in the media. I think he likes to say things that will generate a lot of headlines, and I guess you're going to have to take that for what you will. But he does seem like, in terms of going to his job every day, that he, is something of like what we talked about with DK Metcalf in the last segment, the consummate professional, knows how this works. And that is something the Steelers have lacked at times the last couple of years.
Yeah, so my tune has changed, Adam. It has. I mean, part of the column is a mea culpa, and I don't think I'm the only one. Ryan Clark is somebody that I cited in there. He had some differing views on it. And you know what? I looked at Aaron Rodgers from afar, and I thought I knew something. And talking to people close to him for this column that you'll read, it'll publish Friday morning at postgazette.com. My views have changed. I think to a degree, I think he's misunderstood. To a degree, I just don't care. Like, win football games. That's the ultimate thing here. That's what the Steelers need him to do. And do I think that can happen? Yes, I do. We'll get to that. But it was interesting pursuing this column. The idea for it was basically the subtlety or the nuance, what Aaron Rodgers puts into his job. And so that took me to a bunch of different places. I wound up talking to Darren Perry. Steelers fans should know him very well. Tom Clements from McKees Rocks, Dom Capers, Steelers fans should know him as well. Texted with Luke Getzey. I'm still trying to get Mike McCarthy. There was another one in there. Don Barclay, the new coach at Seneca Valley, was Rodgers' teammate in Green Bay, was an offensive lineman with Rodgers, and trying to get kind of the feel of who Aaron Rodgers is. How does he handle himself off the field? And boy, these guys couldn't have nicer things to say about him. And not only that, it wasn't just like, oh, he's a great guy. There are very specific stories. One stands out to me, Adam. I'll just cite it here. Darren Perry was telling me about discussions that he had with Aaron Rodgers, that Aaron Rodgers would talk about the way, and Perry was, I believe, the safeties coach, defensive backs coach in Green Bay. And he would say, hey, like when your guys come up this certain way in this blitz, like if the nickel's aligned this way and his feet are moving this way, that's where I know you guys are going into cover two. You might want to adjust that. Like he recognizes these tiny little details that not only did they help his team, but they also help the other team, sort of like self-scout. And Perry had no idea that was happening. And so he went back and fixed it. So anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying I think there's more to Rodgers than meets the eye, even if you might think he's arrogant or weird or anything like that. I don't think it matters. If you can play, if you can figure this game out at a mental level, which is where Rodgers is at, and if you can fit into a locker room, which he's done, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think the the proposition of whether you like Aaron Rodgers as an individual can be different from whether you like him as a football player. And I think a lot of people tied that package. I'd say myself included. The public persona is one thing, the player is another. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially once they hit the skids potentially a little bit. If there's any down points in the season, how does he handle that? And does the honeymoon period come to some level of an end? Jason, let me ask the question about Aaron Rodgers this way. This experience this year is a success in your mind if?
Ooh, okay. If he stays healthy, if the offensive line protects him, those two are related. If they're able to run the ball, if Roman Wilson is able to take the necessary steps to fill out the receiving group, because I think you need some combination of Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson to make up for a lack of true number two. How many can I list? I should probably pick one, huh?
You can answer with both.
I mean, number one, he has to stay healthy, right? He's 41. I can look at Aaron Rodgers right now, Adam, going into the Jets game and feel pretty good about what I've seen throughout training camp. He hasn't been hit. He hasn't been challenged. We haven't seen the Steelers' offensive line break down. The last time the Steelers' offensive line took the field, things were really bad. They did not do a great job of protecting Russell Wilson. Now, I think some of that was self-inflicted. He held on to the ball too long. This wasn't the same type of offense and all that fun stuff. But, I mean, he's 41. If he absorbs hits, this could be problematic. So that's a concern for me. And I just, who evolves as a pass catcher? Maybe I can generalize it that way. Like, if they're able to get it done with Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth and, being heavy on tight ends, if Roman Wilson can take a step, whatever. But, health and the evolution of pass catchers, I guess I'll say.
Jason, Cam Heyward is staying in the headlines here with his contract dispute. Mike Tomlin tried to put it to rest, said he expects Cam Heyward to play, but then Cam said, "Not so fast, my friend," in tribute to Lee Corso from this past weekend.
Nice.
Here's the question as I asked it to Chris Carter. I'm curious your take as well. What's the value for him of negotiating this in public? I don't mind him asking for more money. I know Chris is certainly in that camp of, if you think you're worth more to a team, if you think you belong in the top 20, guys at your position, ask for more money. But the way that this has bled into being something of a public spat just does not comport with how I've seen Cam Heyward for his entire career, his very long career as a Steeler. Why is he choosing to attack it this way in your mind?
I think he's getting some bad advice, Adam. And I'm with you to a point on what you said and what you and Carter were discussing. I think players have every right to ask for as much money as possible when their contract is up. They've earned that. Turn the screws, get your employer, all that stuff. I'm on board. Whatever tactic you have to do, like, hey, it happens. You can't do it every year. You can't. I mean, that's part of what makes sports entertaining. Some players produce above what they're being paid. Some players produce below what they're getting paid. Is Cam Heyward, if he underproduced, was he going to volunteer to give money back? I doubt it. So, like, you overproduce and all of a sudden you can go back and ask for more money? That's not how it works. You get the opportunity when your contract was up. His contract was up, or negotiations happened last year. That was his opportunity. He signed this deal. If it's a bad deal, that's on him and his representation. I don't know what to tell him. I mean, I have no sympathy for that. Don't tell me that you feel undervalued when you've made, over $130 million playing football. I mean, look at our economy. Look at drive around the city of Pittsburgh. Talk to people who are actually hard up on your luck. And you're telling me you don't feel respected? That's ridiculous. And I love Cam Heyward as a person, what he's done for this city. That's incredible. But I mean, that's a stupid thing to say. I don't know how you're going to, you thought that was going to go over well and that people were going to be, oh my gosh, yes. Feel bad for the professional athlete who just got a gigantic contract last year and, has made more money than I can ever conceive of. No. I mean, the idea should be, I want to do everything to win a playoff game, to advance in the playoffs, to win a Super Bowl, whatever you want to say. That should be the focus. And if your contract's up, hey, get your money. But you can't have it every year.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd add, Jason, is that this is not like a penny pinching situation. I think from the Steelers' perspective, it's a question of how they spend their dollars most efficiently to win, and that's where I think the disconnect for me somewhat is with the request, is that it's not like a zero sum like it sometimes feels with the Pirates, where either you pay this player or it goes to ski lifts at Seven Springs, as people often talks about when that was the thing for Bob Nutting. You're trying to manage a salary cap, and you're trying to you're trying to be efficient. Efficiency is the goal, maybe more so than just saving money and putting it in your pocket. So I don't he has to know that. And that's the part that, I don't quite understand from his perspective at this stage of his career, where you would think that the onus is on winning and getting him, turning him into a Jerome Bettis type figure of, get him that ring, because he's been this guy for the Steelers for so long. That's the part that's not quite clicking for me. Jason, let's get into some quick predictions for the season here. Final record, how far do they go? I'll go first. I'm going to be a little bit of a fly in the ointment, maybe. I think I'm going to say 9-8, and I'm going to say no playoffs. I don't buy the receiver situation. I think if you lose DK Metcalf for any length of time, it's going to get ugly. And I'm not sold on the defense yet, to be completely honest with you. I know a lot of people are talking about it's historic. They've got all these guys, but I wonder if the more I hear Mike Tomlin talk about his veterans, he's like, well, look at the resume. I wonder if he's getting a little lost in the sauce of the business of football and resumes. And are these guys still the names that the player you think of when you hear their name? Or, is it just that? Are these guys that are on the decline and that, you get excited about who they could have been 5 years ago if they were all together compared to, maybe today, maybe they're not quite as good as we've hyped them up to be.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that perspective. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think the Steelers are an elite team, that they're going to nudge past the Bills or the Chiefs or anything like that. I have a slightly rosier view than you do, Adam. I mean, I think there's still some meat left on the bone, to follow that analogy and use some of Mike Tomlin's words. I do see this working out to a degree. I think their schedule is winnable enough early on. I don't want to say soft. I think that's the wrong word. I think they go 11-6 and do win a playoff game. That doesn't make them an elite team in my mind. It just makes them better than the, Broncos, Texans, Colts. I'm trying to think of like your mediocre to okay teams, in the second or maybe even third cut of the AFC. I think this defense can be pretty good. I think they can turn up the pressure. I think it actually, I don't think it's going to be, a catastrophic failure or anything like that. But I do think they're going to be better. I think they're going to provide some optimism. And I think that leads into a very interesting question. And I know we're not going to answer it on this podcast, but like, if this goes well, if Rodgers stays healthy, if he enjoys this, does he come back? I don't know.
Yeah, especially because, if you draft a rookie quarterback, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to play a rookie quarterback. I think teams increasingly like to figure out what they have with these guys.
Sure.
And get them in there sooner or later. So in the Steelers' case, they moved on from Kenny Pickett quickly. But, they also spent 2 years in the Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields sauce. And I don't think they really accelerated their timeline at quarterback just by moving on from Pickett. So Jason, will be exciting to watch that all play out. We'll talk to you again next week. We'll have an actual football game to finally speak about. Looking forward to that. If you are just joining us for the first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. Help us out in the YouTube algorithm. And we will talk to you again next week.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.